Hi, I'm Trooper Smacka.
Hi, I'm Trooper Wellman,
Please stay tuned for a behind-the-scenes look at being a state trooper.
and together we can make a difference.
Thank you for joining us at 360.Vegas with Trooper Talk with Trooper Smacka. Trooper Smacka, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Neil.
We just had the holiday weekend, and so, a lot of people are getting on the road, either to travel back home or different places, right? So cars are closer together than they normally maybe would be on a highway, right?
Correct.
And so talk to us a little bit maybe about the defensive driving versus, any other type of driving.
Yes, as many people saw, especially on Labor Day itself, at the end of a 3-day weekend, we had a lot of traffic of visitors returning to California, and that area around Jean and State Line becoming very congested as they're leaving Las Vegas. And you see cars becoming very closer together. And that is a time when you really have to be on your toes and be paying attention to the car in front of you. Because especially if you're close to someone like that and you don't have that reaction time, when those brake lights come on, you have to react much sooner than if you drove like the recommended distance of having at least a vehicle and a half in between you and the car in front of you, to give yourself a little more reaction time so you're not slamming on your brakes and avoiding striking the vehicle in front of you when they hit their brakes.
And one of the common things that I see on the news and everything is people like to use the shoulder,
Yes.
right? Now, the shoulder is more for, a breakdown, right? Or
Yeah,
tell
that's
us.
exactly what it's for.
Right.
It's for someone having car trouble, someone who needs to pull off out of the travel lanes. And now we have people who feel they need to get around the traffic congestion and drive at a very high rate of speed, actually, down the right shoulder out there. And it's going to have deadly consequences if they come upon somebody who's having traffic problems or who needed to pull over for whatever reason, and they come barreling down on them at high rate of speed. It's going to be really bad. So it's a big part of our presence out there on those days is really enforcing that shoulder running and keeping people from doing that, because it's very dangerous.
And I also noticed that, they have 10 miles sometimes of backup,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
One of the things we always talk about is preparedness when you travel, right? So what do we need in our car, like water and stuff like this, to prepare for these type of things?
Water's a great one, especially this time of year when it's 100 degrees outside and you're going to be stuck in traffic in our desert climate for a long, extended period of time possibly. Make sure you have plenty of water for not just in case the vehicle overheats, but for the occupants inside the vehicle. It's also always a good idea to check your tires, make sure you don't see any cracks or any potential problems of having a blowout. And we also recommend traveling with first aid equipment in case you have any roadside problems. Make sure you have a spare and all the equipment you need to change a tire, and reflective materials. So if you are broke down on the side of the road, you have flares or reflective cones or something to alert oncoming traffic that you're out there.
And one of the things that I also wanted to talk about was, so it's now September. People, the summer's over, right? But now we're in holiday season as
Yes.
as the holidays are coming up, right? And this is amongst the deadliest time of year because people don't realize it.
Yes, at any time you have a holiday, people are generally going to congregate and celebrate, and oftentimes imbibe in alcohol consumption. And that's when we find people start making the poor decision of driving while impaired, especially as we get into Christmas holidays, when you have a lot of companies having their Christmas parties and people going over and having the parties with family and friends and consuming alcohol and then deciding they're going to drive. It becomes very dangerous and destroys the holiday season for many people when they lose a loved one in a very preventable, fatal traffic crash.
And we're going to get to the picture now because there was a personal thing that happened just this weekend. So we had the trooper walking someone across the road. This was off the NHP feed, right?
Yes.
This traffic light came down and there were occupants and someone lost their life.
Actually, this one was not a fatal crash.
Not a fatal. Okay, so explain to us what we have.
But it did involve a person who was arrested for suspicion of driving while impaired.
Driving while.
And they did run off the roadway, damaging their vehicle as well as a traffic signal.
Okay. There was the one.
This one, yes, somebody.
This was the one.
Yeah,
Okay,
we had
yeah.
two people lose
Okay.
their lives on this one.
So talk to us about this.
This was a case where the silver car was traveling in the area coming into Las Vegas from California, driving at a very high rate of speed, and they had a big tractor trailer in front of them. And for reasons we haven't been able to determine yet, they were unable to navigate around or slow down as they approached this tractor trailer at a high rate of speed, and they slammed into the back of it. And both occupants of the silver car lost their lives that morning.
This right here,
Yes.
right? When we had Trooper Wellman on here, now I look at these pictures because she was like, oh, there's a shoe or something, right?
Yes.
This is a tractor trailer tire.
Yes.
Or
Yeah, it's
axle,
a
however
whole
it is,
axle
right?
wheel assembly, yes. That was
ripped
disconnected from
off.
the trailer because of the force of the impact.
Right? And so, I mean, there's not much we can say, right? But I mean,
No,
like, what type of force had to come to
Oh, it's a humongous amount of force. So we have determined that this car was going over 100 miles an hour at time of impact. As you can see, I mean, just the devastation of just the debris field. And like you say, something large like that axle assembly being removed from a commercial vehicle is going to take an immense force.
Yeah. How about this one?
Yeah, this is one of our state troopers conducting a field sobriety test on a driver who's suspected of operating a motor vehicle while they're under the influence.
And so when you walk up to a driver and you use your training and stuff like that, this is part of the professionalism that you display, right?
Yes. Yes, this trooper, when we make a car stop, we're going to first take into account the driving characteristics of the vehicle. Is it driving erratically? Is it all over the road? Is it crossing between lanes? Is it going fast and then very slow, fast and very slow? Is it riding in the shoulder? There's a lot of things of seeing a vehicle in motion that are what we'd call clues that somebody may be impaired while operating their vehicle. Then once we stop the vehicle, oftentimes when you make your approach up to the driver of the vehicle, you can oftentimes smell alcohol coming from inside the cab, alcohol coming from the driver's breath. You can see their complexion. Their eyes are going to often be bloodshot and kind of glassy looking. Their complexion's going to be pretty flush. That they may be slurring their words, moving very slow and with poor balance. And there's a lot of things leading up to us just making the determination whether or not we need to remove this person from the car and conduct a field sobriety test with them.
And when that's done, I mean, this is what's
Yes.
going on. All right. How about this one? Now, we had the opportunity last week with the lieutenant who came
Yes.
on and, gave up his time to talk to us about the drug interdiction. I mean, holy smokes.
Yes.
I know you're very passionate too. Talk to us about the drug interdiction.
Well, this is a community killer. We're looking at over 100 pounds of methamphetamine. This much drugs entering into one of our communities in Nevada can devastate an entire community, devastate entire families and people. This is something very near and dear to all of our hearts to prevent that from occurring. And it's a big part of what we're looking for when we're out there enforcing traffic law, is looking for cues that might lead us to stopping drug traffickers from bringing this poison into our communities.
I mean, it is absolutely astonishing to me how much this is.
Yes.
Like pounds, right? This isn't like some
pounds.
guy who has a little bag and, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like
Yeah, we're not talking ounces. This is
Right.
pounds. Over, I believe it was 104 pounds.
pounds.
And the day before, there was another traffic stop where it was over 60 pounds
Yeah.
of the same methamphetamine.
It's horrible.
It is a horrible drug that ruins lives, and it's always a good day when we can prevent a large amount of it from entering into our communities.
Well, on behalf of everybody, we thank you because this garbage needs to get off of our streets and
Yes.
stop killing our communities. All right. The motorcycle officer is here. Now, the thing is this, that we always want to emphasize the motorcycle because most people don't follow them, you know, and so we always want to emphasize the fact that we need to watch motorcycles on our freeways. Talk to us about motorcycles.
Yes, I mean, being on a motorcycle, you're in a vehicle where you're pretty exposed. You don't have a lot of protection around you. And so the smallest crash can have serious consequences, injuries, or worse. And so it's important that we look out for them, because at any time there's a crash involving a motorcycle, it has the potential to be really dangerous to that motorcycle rider. So we always ask that people, we recommend when you're driving along, constantly look in your mirrors, look in your side mirrors, double check your blind spots before you switch lanes so you're not pulling out in front of a motorcycle that you may not have initially noticed.
And so, you know, he's taking his time, but I always look at the fact that these other cars, even though we don't see it in the video, they're still passing at 50 miles an hour. Now, the other thing I wanted to take a look is it says HOV lanes enforced.
Yes.
Talk to us about what is an HOV lane and why would we enforce it?
HOV stands for a high occupancy vehicle, and those are the lanes to assist with vehicle congestion in our urban areas. It's a lane for carpoolers. If you have more than one person in your vehicle, it's a lane set aside for you that may be less congested and pull some of the cars also that have multiple occupants in them out of the other travel lanes while everyone's trying to get to where they're going, just to free up traffic a little bit. But the problem occurs is when you have people who aren't
They think
high
it's a speed
occupancy
lane.
getting into that lane, just trying to
Right.
get around traffic, and
Right.
then we have to conduct enforcement.
Right, and that's very important because we always encourage, right, the carpooling and stuff like this. It's not only it's better for the economy, but you know, I'm sure it takes down crashes and stuff because it's just less cars on the
Yes.
road, right?
Yes, because another big thing to notice too, you don't see a real clear shot of it in this particular frame,
Yeah.
but there's a double white line that signifies when you're next to
okay.
an HOV lane.
That's why they have the break of the white line, right?
Yes,
It's a break.
yes, and that's the
because
lane
that
where
you
people
pass.
can get in and out of the HOV lanes freely.
Right. That's a good point. So remember that we have to always look at the lines to help us with that, the double white line. I mean, you know, horrific crash.
Yes, yeah. Just
And-
another
and
tragic
so-
crash.
Another tragic crash, but you know we want to point these out so people don't get impaired. We have a Jeep or some car, but you know, I mean, the thing that I keep looking at, like you
Yep.
know, there's a shoe down
Water
here,
bottles,
there's an
shoes,
orange over here.
yep.
You know, somebody's life, right?
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
somebody who
somebody
was-
had that shoe. I mean,
Somebody who was on some sort of road trip and now, just in a moment's without a moment's notice, just in mere seconds, everything changes,
Everything
and it becomes a very tragic, dark day.
and so when somebody's coming to Las Vegas or leaving Las Vegas, it doesn't matter. We still have to honor the roadways.
Yes.
Right. You know,
yeah.
I mean, and make sure because we want everyone to come home. You know this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
So the trooper's job is never done.
No, yeah, this was an incident involving an off-duty trooper who was actually on her way from a Halloween party last year. And as we're coming up to that season again, this isn't an uncommon occurrence where she encountered somebody who was impaired behind the wheel and was just about to get on the highway on an off-ramp and about to go the wrong direction on a highway. And she, in her personal car, was able to stop this vehicle from entering the highway and call it in so an on-duty trooper can come over and take over the investigation into the impaired driver, and they ended up making an arrest.
Put her life in jeopardy in her personal car.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So what are we seeing here?
She sees this car, just as I explained, they're entering the highway through an off-ramp where you see all the other cars leaving the highway, they're coming on, going the wrong direction.
And these cars are passing at 50, 60 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, yes. This is highway traffic exiting to get onto the surface streets. And so she was able to get this vehicle stopped and keep them from leaving until we had on-duty state troopers arrive so they could conduct an investigation into impairment.
And we can see a better quality of this image on the NHP Twitter feed.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
that's just, it's just, you know,
Yes,
we
it's
just blew it up, you know what I
expanded,
mean?
yes.
So, but the thing is that, you know, not only it brings to the light of the impaired driver, right? And one of the reasons I wanted to bring that up was the fact that, you know,
Yeah,
it's
you
not
can-
funny she's in a costume, but, you know,
Yes.
she's going somewhere.
Yes, exactly. She was on her way home from a Halloween party where she was dressed up like a Star Wars stormtrooper.
And so this is very important that we have to stop these wrong way drivers.
Yes. Who knows how many lives she possibly saved that night.
Yeah. I got this video. All right, so let's
Yes,
double-
this wrong way driver was very dangerous because they're in a commercial, very large, heavy commercial vehicle. If this vehicle strikes a normal passenger car head on, it's going to be catastrophic. And so
Catastrophic.
this is amazing that this trooper was able to intercept this wrong way commercial vehicle and get it stopped before it killed somebody.
I saw this video and my heart stopped because exactly like you're saying, I saw this and I go, you know, it's bad enough that somebody's in a car. I mean, this guy is in a huge vehicle,
Yes.
thousands of pounds, I'm
Yes.
sure. So, you know what I mean? Or,
Yeah, regardless of going wrong way, this person was also arrested for driving under the influence.
and so we're going to show it coming up right here, the size of this vehicle. Because I was just astonished. Because normally I think, oh, you know, somebody's going to, you know, like you're saying, maybe they go out and they drink or do whatever. But this is a huge truck. I mean, these
truck.
cars on the right.
Yes. No, this was a very dangerous situation.
And so, you know, he obviously knows, you know, we're not putting words there, you know, that something is not right. I mean, all these cars, we learned last week, which I didn't know, that when you travel down
Oh, the wrong direction, yes. All the reflectors will be red.
red,
On top of it, I mean, you see a large amount of cars coming towards you, counterflow to the direction you're going. That's usually a clue.
like,
But when somebody's impaired, they don't pick up on things that would be obvious to a sober driver.
and now this trooper puts his life in risk because he's so close to that roadway. Talk to us while we're doing this
Oh,
about
yeah,
the move
yes.
over law, right? So they
Yes.
have to move over. Is that right?
Yes, we are on the inside shoulder, and that yellow line is the only thing separating him from actually it would be the fast lane.
The fast lane. And even if they're going 65 miles an hour, I mean, they're whizzing
Yeah,
by.
yeah.
Luckily, it doesn't seem like there's very many
Yes,
cars.
and
But
then that's one of the dangers of our profession is we're used to doing our job and operating inches from cars traveling at over 70 miles an hour.
and so you can see that the trooper is obviously being professional, but like, holy smokes.
Yeah, a very scary situation.
Very, very scary. Huge truck. And so, all right, let's go to the next one. Now, in the last couple episodes, when Trooper Wellman was here and when you were here, it was very interesting because you both touched your badge in a very personal way.
Yes.
One of the things that we like on Trooper Talk is the fact to understand you as a person and you understand you as a trooper and kind of give that little bit of personal insight into what it means to be a trooper. And so here's my question for you. What does this badge mean to you?
This badge to me is public trust. This is a badge that the public looks for when they are in danger and when they need help. This is something that they have put their trust and trust their lives with. And it's being that that's how I view the public's view of this. To me, it's also an immense responsibility to never tarnish or disappoint the public when it comes to their view of this badge. This badge is literally the difference between order and chaos.
And we've talked before, you know, one of the things that in your profession, you know, you see the human side of, you know, all those pictures that we just saw of you know, the mothers and the fathers who are coming for their sons and their daughters, that you have to say,
Yes.
you know.
That's one of the most difficult things we can do, is when we have to explain to a grieving family member that, yeah, their loved one was lost, and this is somebody who's not going to be coming home, that they've lost their life.
And it's really a tragedy. And so we always look for the road rage, right? We've talked before about how you were in a situation with the road rage, and you know, someone lost their life, and you know, we want to save lives in any which way we can. Sometimes they're on the roadways and sometimes not, right?
Absolutely. I've had opportunities where it was nowhere near the highway, where I've had the privilege of being in the right place at the right time to save a young lady's life. It had nothing to do with traffic. I was one of the first responders on the night of 1 October 2017 and encountered a pickup truck that had multiple gunshot victims in the bed of the truck. And they flagged me down as I was on my way down to the scene and explained to me that they had a young girl, a girl in her early 20s, who was shot in the arm, and she had severe blood, or she was losing blood at a rapid pace. She had arterial and nerve damage. And her father did the best he could. He tried to use a belt to try to make a tourniquet for her, but it wasn't working well enough, and we needed to get her help. And so I took it upon myself to immediately escort them across town to UMC Trauma through the panic congestion, and was very fortunate to have her be one of the very first people to go into surgery that night, and was told by her family that had she been there, arrived a minute, 2 minutes later, they wouldn't have been able to operate on her, and that the only reason she survived is we got her there in a timely fashion. And so that's very important to me. That's what that badge is to me, is the trust of this father, who his daughter, his world, is hanging by a thread, and he put that trust into me and this badge to do something. He put the life of his daughter in my hands, and I take that very seriously. I don't know if I failed and she did not survive, I don't know if I could have recovered from that. That's a very profound experience, and I'm thankful that I didn't have to come to terms with that, because the way I look at it is, it's unacceptable for me to lose anybody on my watch. And if they put his faith in his daughter's life in my hands, I better come through for him.
And as we come to, you know, September 11th is now this week, 20 years later, right?
Yes.
And then we have the October 1, you know, which is always a date, you know, here for Las Vegas, but is synonymous around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on behalf of her father, I thank you. You know, it's the human side that makes you very special.
I appreciate that.
And so it's really a wonderful thing to be able to share and be able to hear those type of things, because, you know, we need more people in the world like you that are willing to put themselves out completely and want nothing in return.
No, and I appreciate that, and that's what I signed up for. This job is very important to me. It's not a job. It's a calling. It's not a career where you can decide one day that I might give that a try. It's something where you know you want to do this, because it is very real when you have events like the Route 91 tragedy, when you have gunfire and everyone's running from it, and you're expected to run towards it. If you're not prepared to do that, then this isn't the career for you.
Yeah, it's just you know, there's so many stories that we hear like that, but you know, to know that you did that, and you know and that's what the badge means to you. It's very important, and I want everyone to know that. We hope that the DPS careers, right?
Yes,
They
yes.
can. There's so many
we can
different
use the
things,
help,
right?
Yeah, so we are always looking for qualified candidates to join our ranks.
And we talked about that the last time on the Trooper Talk, of all the different things and the qualifications and stuff like that. We're going to go to here, which is our final screen. Trooper Smacko, we appreciate you sharing the story. It's very, very important, and I know all the viewers, they appreciate the humbleness to be able to hear those type of things from you.
No, and it's helpful for me to be able to share the story too. The more I talk about it, it helps me to kind of put everything in perspective that I experienced that night, because it was a night that changed my life forever. And yeah, if it's all right with you, Neil, as the anniversary comes up, I can definitely go much more in depth on what I did that night and kind of walk the viewers through that
I
night,
have time.
beginning to the end. We can definitely do that, and I can even, I've gotten permission from the family where I can share pictures of Taylor, the young lady I was able to help that night, and show what her family went through and what her injuries look like, and just show how real that is, because it's important too, as we approach, we're 4 years removed now, that people don't forget.
Yeah. I think it's so important, any life, one life, it really makes a difference. And so it's very important to always shine a spotlight on anything or anybody like that, and for you as the trooper to show that.
Yes, and I mean, I'm just one of hundreds of stories from that night. But like I said, I actually really look forward to having the opportunity to share my story, because if nothing else, it keeps in people's memories, because that's what's important, whether you're talking the 9/11 tragedy or what happened here when we had the worst mass shooting in modern times occur right here in Las Vegas. It's important that people never forget.
Never forget. Well, let me tell you, we always look for something to tell everybody so that they want to watch the next episode. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a special episode on October 1 for the Trooper Talk.
Okay.
And so we're going to get prepared for that. So that'll be in a couple weeks. We'll do a whole October 1 Trooper Talk and stuff like that. And so that'll be really wonderful.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so you heard it here live at 360.Vegas that Trooper Smack is going to be here, and we're going to talk all about the October 1 coming up in a couple weeks. Thank you very much, and everybody just be safe out there no matter what you're doing. All right? Thank you.